It was around the time that my father-in-law was celebrating his 80th birthday that he showed me this treasured notebook he'd recovered from the loft. It was a diary of routes he'd cycled as a teenager, meticulous details about distances, money saved and time taken as he ventured out on his bike for long days of exploration. I wondered about retracing one of his journeys and seeing if I could somehow connect with him in 1958.
Hello Pam, could you phone back later because Jason is here filming me.
Before I get going, it probably helps to give some context here. This is Graham and Rosemary. I've known them for at least 30 years because I married their daughter Fiona back when everyone was a lot younger somehow. I sat down with Graham to share some of his memories.
All the different rides I did. During the winter time, my exercise would be cross-country running, and then during the holiday, I enjoyed going off and discovering places. I was always keen on looking at maps and seeing a place on the map and thinking, oh yes, I want to go and see what that's like there. Places on the south coast, Eastbourne, Hastings, Hythe, Folkestone, Southend. Cycle straight up through London, the centre of London, up to Hertfordshire, up to Bedford once. Yeah, I didn't plan a series of routes or anything. I just decided a day or two beforehand where I might go. 115 miles there, and it says here, puncture, 2 miles by lorry. I obviously hitched the lift on a lorry with my bike.
You're very fond of this time, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, it was a freedom time, you know. I could stop wherever I wanted, stop however long I wanted, anywhere.
Oh,
and
thank you, soup. Thank you. Oh, that's lovely.
Port Slade, Hove.
Oh, the bread is done so lovely, thank you. After enjoying that decent lunch, I jumped on my bike to make the journey from Worthing on the south coast to Graham's original home in Coulsdon near Croydon. To preserve life and limb, I planned my route carefully using some well-respected cycling navigation apps. Choosing a quieter set of roads, I calculated the round trip as somewhere between 100 and 110 miles. This would mean that my higher capacity bike battery would need one or more charging stops if I was going to make it all the way to Coulsdon and back. It was already clear from the outset that cycling in 2023 was dramatically different to 1958.
No special gear at all. I had just an ordinary Raleigh Trent Sports bicycle. I only had 3 gears. That was a bit limiting. So far as what I wore, ordinary sandals, ordinary shorts, a shirt. I would have had a jumper with me, not necessarily wearing it. I had a small saddlebag. I didn't carry anything very much. Might have some Lucozade in a bottle to drink. And I often had a tube of Rowntree's fruit gums or Spangles that kept me going while I was riding. I like to record things. I would stop every now and again just to note down on a piece of paper where I got to and what the mileage was, add up how many miles I'd done each year or in total. I also kept records of how much money I saved on all my local trips.
Actually, it's worth saying that this Benfield Valley turnoff is a bit of a hidden gem. It is really worth taking because it takes you right out across the downs. Taking a route that's straddling the A23, this is probably similar to what Graham would have been on back in 1958, obviously without it being quite as built up as it is. And that's what the underside of the A23 looks like. Just over 30 miles in, just really enjoying it. The route through Crawley, actually quite impressive. I haven't really had to deal with any traffic at all. Whoever's put this together, I just want to thank you for that. So I'm quite close to Hawley, just sort of parallel to Gatwick Airport. You can hear it over the back, just above me. Bell Inn, just outside Outwood. Had a 1 hour stop and they let me charge my battery, so it's gone from 37 up to 61%, which should boost me a fair bit at the time, so I should now be able to make it.
I'd always taken the A23 and M25 for granted, but hovering around them now on this particular journey gave me an increased sense of distance. What advantages have they brought to our lives? And what has been lost on the way?
Things were very different then. There seemed to be much more freedom and less worry about where people were going and what they were doing. It was much easier. The war, by that time, we didn't feel it was near to us. We were well away from that. But that was all in the past, and we didn't talk about that much. I think from 1952 onwards, with the Queen, people were looking ahead very much more than looking back, although there was still a lot of things to be rebuilt and there were bomb sites around still, and but it was in many ways a new age. Everything around was developing fairly quickly. Things were changing. A feeling of hope for the future and a peaceful world, modernisation of everything, a far better world in the future to look forward to.
4 miles, Hilltop Lane, no kidding.
Just stopping here and just getting a sense of where Graham used to live. Quite incredible. In the distance I can see the Crystal Palace Tower and there's the City of London, and then you can see this row of houses. This is probably quite similar still to how it was back in 1958. I can imagine him just getting on his bike and just heading off for the coast. A real reward coming out here to see this and to try and pull back the curtain on time a little.
I would normally get back by 6, 7, 8 o'clock. If I was going to be later than that, I might well have phoned them to say, oh, I shan't be back until 10 or half 10, so they wouldn't worry. No mobile phones in those days, of course. If I needed to phone, I would have had to get my eye open for a telephone box somewhere.
Now I'm going to take a different route back. Getting here was 54 miles. Going back is about 45, and it'll be a different sort of terrain. This is where things really kick in. We properly see what Graham's resolve was like. I've had assistance, but this is going to be tricky. Now at the moment on tour mode, my bike has only got 13 miles in it, which isn't enough, so I have to find somewhere where I can stop for a couple of hours. Reigate. And into Lee. So we're heading to the Newdigate turn. I just saw a sign for Scout Camp, and the chap here has let me plug in my bike. Very grateful. I'll sit here for an hour, have some quiet. So there I was with nothing to do for an hour. So I got out my concertina sketchbook and started making some notes about my journey. A bit like Graham would have done 65 years ago. There's 2 serious hill climbs at the Stenning end. We'll see how that works out. Okay then, big pool of water. Just near Stonehouse Lane. You can just see how intense the traffic is here. Fortunately, I haven't had to deal with any of this. None of it. I wouldn't be able to cope with it. I would avoid it. To even get across the road is actually quite difficult. I'm not sure if Graham would have taken Stenning back in the day. I've got 12 miles on the battery and it is about 5 miles to the end. Stenning Bowl. And there we have it. And there we have it. What a view. What an incredible view. What an incredible moment. It's about to hit 100 miles and I've never gone that far. There we go, 100 miles. 100. What a journey. Of course, Graham Legg in 1958 would have done this very easily. For me, it's a landmark, a milestone.
Looking back at my diaries, I realise how active we were, you know, continually going hither and thither and doing all sorts of different activities and things, because that gave us a lot of freedom. Definitely. Myself and my two brothers, mum and dad, all had bicycles before we had a car, and we had freedom to hop on our bike and go. We had freedom. Having bikes was a great advantage.
At the end of this fascinating adventure, I asked Graham what he would bring back from 1958 if he had the power.
I was going to say, give everybody a bicycle.